Hello, once again, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of AIW's The Card is Going to Change. Before we get into this week's episode, we, of course, want to give a shout out to our sponsors that help us bring the show to you for free each and every week. Thanks to Angelo's Pizza. Maybe you're sitting there right now and you're hungry and you can't go out to eat, but Angelo's Pizza still has pickup and delivery during these trying times when we are all quarantined. So make sure you look them up. It's Angelo's on Madison Avenue in beautiful Lakewood, Ohio. Thanks to Pollyanna DIY. As we talk about people, small businesses that need your support right now, Pollyanna DIY, certainly one of them. And they've got all sorts of custom merchandise there for you. Also, thanks to Smart Mark Video and, of course, their merger with IWTV. If you want to stream some fantastic wrestling, sign up at independentwrestling.tv and get a 5-day free trial. Perfect right now because you're mostly sitting around doing nothing. So sign up for IWTV. Also, check out all of the AIW archives that are on Smart Mark Video at smartmarkvideo.com. That we get into this week's episode, kind of bringing you guys up to speed on what's going on.
Socially distanced. Socially distanced.
Yes, this is a socially distanced podcast episode of The Card is Going to Change. It's just AIW owner John Thorne sitting in his studio.
My studio, yes.
And my name is Steve Guy, your moderator of sorts, all the way from, I guess, my studio. This is great.
Yeah, we're going against all of the rules of this podcast, which we always wanted to do it in person, it's just not happening with the current state of things. So we are experimenting with Skype for the first time. Two guys that are not so hip to working Skype. And I'm sure you guys can figure it out. The audio quality is probably not going to be what is expected of the podcast, but these are the desperate measures we have to go to get a podcast out this week.
I feel like
we didn't do a new one last week based on just the chaos of everything.
I feel like we're both pretty technologically sound on modern times, but Skype is one that we've never done.
Well, I've done other podcasts on Skype, but it's just like it's always on my phone, So
oh yeah,
which I'm doing it on my phone today because I have no microphone that will plug into my computer, and just totally unprepared for this situation that we are currently in. But I am in my upstairs office here with trying to get the most condensed audio possible that we can. But yeah, this is like I'm more of like, I wouldn't say I'm technologically sound, but I am very capable to watch a couple of YouTube how-to videos and then trick myself into being somewhat technologically sound. And we didn't really prepare. We were just like, yeah, Skype should work, and then we're just winging it right now. So hopefully this turns out okay.
Yeah, we hope that you guys are all doing well. Obviously, we're trying to figure this out so that eventually we can get more people involved like you're used to, where it's not just John and myself. But, I live with a nurse personally, so part of my thing is trying to not be around a ton of people because she's going to have to save lives at some point. I don't want to get her sick and...
it's crazy. Like, as we stand right now at this recording, like Ohio is at a stay-at-home order until at least April 6th.
Yes.
My job is on my current, like, we're on like a rotating staff as of now, as it's deemed essential. However, like reduced workers being in the building. So I am off until March 30th. And then I'm supposed to work that week, and then I'm off for another 2 weeks, and then I don't know how long it's going to go on. It's just, but I've been off this whole week as well because I had a cough, and based on just the way of the world, I try to make a doctor's appointment, and I'm getting ready to go. I have to explain to my boss, which I do not think I have the coronavirus. However, they send out all these mandates at work, like stay home if you're sick. Well, I mean, I'm not sick, but I don't know what that even means anymore, So
Yeah.
I make an appointment to kind of clear things up for myself to be able to go to work. And the doctor, I get an alert that the doctor won't even allow me to come to the office because I have a cough. And it was going to be a phone appointment. And I was like, what the fuck can you do over the phone? And sure enough, I call and they're like, nope, it's a phone appointment. And the doctor eventually calls me and asks me some questions. And she's like, yeah, okay, now you have to stay home from work for 72 hours. Even though you probably don't have COVID-19, it's a precautionary measure. You must be isolated. So I've been off work since Monday. And now, I'm off at another completely, additional week. So I'm gonna, it's crazy. I don't know when I'm ever gonna see the outside world again, I guess.
I've been shut down for some time. I'm trying to think about it. I think March 12th, I did a comedy show, and at that point, it was crowds under 100 people. And then on the 14th, I was the guest judge of an air guitar event at the Winchester.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that those people even contacted us looking for judges.
Yeah, and I felt bad because there was only like 30 people. They're big AIW fans too, and it was awesome. But, there was like 30 people showed up, and the guys were a little down about it. I'm like, you guys, people are scared right now. And the very next day, they announced, hey, we're shutting down bars and everything. And, of course, I bartend. So, I mean, I've been doing nothing for some time. And the flip side of living with a nurse, too, is like now I'm really trying to not be around people as much as this thing spreads even more because, I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm more likely than others to get it at some point should she bring it home because you just don't know.
Well, like just to circle back to my isolation order, it was all based on my awful bout with pneumonia a few years ago. So
right.
They were like, you can't take any chances. So you must stay home because, like, I guess it attacks like your breathing and all that stuff. So, and I felt like fine, but just the fact that I had like just probably your average everyday, Dave Meltzer cough, it was just like, you must stay home. So I've been home since Tuesday, and I've gone out for like some groceries and stuff like that, but there's nothing else you could really do,
Well, I think to bring everybody up to speed, as we've been talking about this stuff, it's a great jumping off point. You mentioned that we are under order to stay at home by the governor of Ohio until April 6th. So there's that. But I think we go back even further and we started hearing about, hey, no more than 100 people. And then I think it became 50 people and then 10 people.
It's crazy how fast the whole thing escalated because like it just really came out of nowhere in the last 2 weeks or something like that. It's like it changed so much every single day. It's hard to even like properly backtrack on how it affected AIW because I mean we were trying to keep it going until the very last straw, which I think was last Sunday, was like the last straw on everything. But yeah, so I'm trying to think.
You're right. Because so initially the first domino to fall was our Columbus show got canceled because these guys
was like the day one thing, which I want to believe it was a Thursday. The governor spoke for the first time in which I believe they shut the schools down and they started they made like the restriction, and at the time Ohio was like one of the strictest, and it was 100 people. And I mean, as soon as I got home from work that day, there was an email from the Hoof Hearted Brewery that said, "Hey, we have to cancel this event based on the new government mandate." And that was just like, it's when I got that, I was just like, so much more is about to fall apart, and there's just nothing that can be done about it, because we had been, and like I had said previously, we had been talking with them for 2 years almost on getting this event together.
Right.
And here we are a few weeks away, and it just goes up in flames, like instantly. Like that was the first chip to fall. And like, it was, like, and then, in my position, and, I know I kind of said this on Twitter, but it's like, I have such a the show must go on mentality. That's just how we've always been, even when we've had awful ticket sales or, things that we know are going to be complete failure. Like we just, like you just go down with the ship because people did pay and there are people that are looking forward to coming. So it's like the show must go on. And when the Columbus thing fell apart, I knew that it was going to be bad. And then, you're looking at the Odeon for March 20th. And we had already sold well over 100 tickets for that. And there's this new order for no gatherings of more than 100. Well, the main event is a 30-person battle royal,
Right.
And so that's 30, not including like the 200 plus tickets that were sold.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, like, so then Friday morning, I get the message from the Odeon and it's like, "Hey, we need to talk." And I was like, well, okay, Columbus went yesterday. Here goes the Odeon. And I talked to Chris from the Odeon, and he said, they had consulted a lawyer to find out how legitimate everything was. And, they found out that, yeah, if you disobey an executive order from the governor, you could be facing quite a bit of repercussions because, not only AIW, they had concerts and other shows booked there,
Right.
and they have a lot of money out there. And, they were advised like, no, you got to cancel it. So I talked to him and I said, just, I don't know, I guess like holding on to a last bit of hope. I thought that by the following week, which would have been, last week, things may have gotten under control. And that was just a naive thinking on my part. So, the Odeon agreed like, hey, yeah, like, let's wait it out. Cause my thought process was why cancel now when we don't know what's going to happen? We still have a full week, things could change drastically in a week and, everything could be under control.
And some of the thoughts that were happening too, the Odeon was willing to work with us, was that, hey, maybe there was a way we could do this with, 50 fans are sitting front row and we can still provide some sort of live streaming for people to watch at home and be able to make money that way and pay our talent that way. So because we knew that these guys were ultimately probably going to miss out on plenty of bookings.
And that was the thing is like we were trying to work something out. Like we were going to be on IWTV and we were trying to work out like a thing to where maybe, we could have like a donation thing up on the screen or, we could really push like, send money to this PayPal account and then we would distribute it among the wrestlers. And we were trying to think of different ways to where we could cover the budget, still pay everybody, and stream it while also kind of abiding by the rules that were kind of set forth by the state of Ohio. And there was a lot of communication going on with Smart Mark Video and IWTV and the Odeon over the weekend, which would have been last weekend. And then on Sunday, the governor spoke again and they closed all bars and restaurants. And like that was pretty much the nail in the coffin. And then they had advised that groups no larger than 50 And then the same day, the president advised groups no larger than 10. So once because they said all bars and restaurants must close unless you serve food, and the Odeon does not serve food. So that was pretty much it.
Well, and the food thing eventually becomes takeout and delivery only.
Well, that's what I'm saying. On Sunday, he made that proclamation that you could stay open if you do takeout, takeout or delivery.
And where that stemmed from is because last Tuesday, so was St. Patrick's Day. At the time that the governor makes this order, it's the Sunday before St. Patrick's Day, which in Cleveland is a huge, joyous celebration. But a lot of the smaller towns on the outskirts of Cleveland celebrate on the weekend, and there are a couple bar crawls and things like that. And so people were cop callers and tweeted at the governor and sent him emails of photos of people crowding bars, by far more than 100 people, just to get hammered.
And like that Saturday, I know that there was like a little thing going on in the West Park area in Cleveland, and it was packed. Nick Sanka was like, I don't understand what the big deal is, man. PJ McIntyre's is wall to wall. And like, sure enough, the next day, all the bars are shut down. And once that happened, that was pretty much it for the Odeon. And, it was kind of like a Band-Aid getting ripped off, because I kind of knew that it wasn't going to happen, but I was just holding out hope, and it sounds bad, but I'm kind of glad that the decision was made for me, because I don't know that I would have made the decision just out of, my, I guess like bullheadedness to complete the show that's advertised. Like, that's just how I always am. And, that the decision was made for us, and there was nothing I could do. And, as soon as that order came out, I was just like, I think that's it. And I started contacting everybody and saying, it's just, there's no way we can do it now. And the Odeon, obviously agreed with that. And that's just the hardest thing is then, I have to try to cancel everybody. And, I'm not going to reveal them, but there were several surprises booked for the Gauntlet, just the Gauntlet match, in which there were flights and other things involved. And, I got to cancel those people. And, and then you got to have that talk. Well, obviously I still want to do this, but who knows what's going to happen now? Who knows how long we're going to be shut down? And those people could have, and not saying it leads to anything, but, we saw Matthew Justice return in a one-off in the Gauntlet, and, that led to a lot of things. So, it's a decent opportunity for people to get that surprise kind of slot. And, I'd spent so much time booking that Gauntlet. There was friggin' dry erase boards all over my living room trying to put it together. And, that was a big frustrating thing. But, we had to, there's nothing we could do about it, and I don't know when the return date's going to be, because we don't know when this is all going to be done and over with. This, we're talking a week ago, and since then, so much has changed. As of today, Ohio is on they say it's a stay-home order. Like, we're pretty much on lockdown. We could go to the grocery store. We can go to the grocery store, or go help your grandma. But like, that's pretty much the only way you're allowed to leave your house, unless you have like one of those essential jobs. And unfortunately, pro wrestling promoter or pro wrestler is not an essential job according to the state of Ohio.
And so, then even at that point, though, once we knew that the Odeon was getting shut down, there still was a potential chance that the Collective in Tampa was going to happen, and that we maybe would have a show, I guess now would be next week, April 2nd. And then that shoe drops.
That was, once Columbus went and once Gauntlet went, I felt that the collective was just a matter of time. Just from a promoter standpoint, it's like, okay, say we're allowed to do it. Like, how many people with what's going on in the world are even comfortable like coming to an event at this point? There's just so many outside factors, and it's just like there's no way that this is going to happen. And we were all banking on WrestleMania also not happening. And as of this recording, at least now they're going forward with a no fans event, and that was just so that was like really a dagger, because it's like, okay, we're gonna have to postpone the collective, but WrestleMania is obviously gonna have to postpone as well. That's kind of the thought process amongst all the promoters that were involved in the collective. And when we were talking, and you're hearing all these different rumors of June or August, or like just like everything else. Like, here's the thing: is like wrestling fans, like we're hearing all the same information at all the same time. Like, I don't have this like secret, secret, connection to the governor of Ohio or the president, or
you don't have the governor's not a part of the non-existent AIW Hall of Fame, huh?
Right. Or like the just like, or Vince McMahon. It's like all these people are like messaging me, and I'm just like, dude, I know as much as you do. Like, I'm learning this information at the exact same time. And so once WrestleMania moved, obviously at that point we were forced to postpone the collective. What we didn't anticipate was, well, then you hear the rumors like, okay, it's just an insurance thing, so it's really not going to happen at the Performance Center. Like, it's just like for show. And then, we have hope on that, and then it seems like it's going on. So now it's like, who knows what's going on with the collective? Like, we will still do a show if there's somewhere to do a show, obviously, but without a WrestleMania anchor to bring in 100,000 wrestling fans, it's really hard for these promoters to be able to do it, because, like, what does a big indie show pull? Like 500, 1,000 people tops, so it's like, it's really hard to try to do it on our own as well. And like, that's why we're all kind of in this weird, like, kind of purgatory as to like, what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think the other side of it too with the fans is, even without WrestleMania anchoring, now we're in this unique situation where fans don't know what kind of financial situation they are going to be in, because you have some people who maybe got some money back that they had spent, refunds or canceling Airbnbs or hotels or whatever the case would be with Tampa. But now a lot of the country, and WrestleMania being an international event, a lot of the world is going on a shutdown, and you have people not working, and not every country is doing like, Italy has suspended any sort of bills. There's like, you don't have to pay anything. There are no expenses coming out of people's pockets right now. Everything is shut down, and that's not the case here and necessarily in some other places, and people are trying to figure out how to pay for stuff. So now, once things do get back going, people aren't necessarily going to have the money to to make a trip to Tampa, or even if the collective got moved to Jersey, people may not have the money to fly there, drive there, put themselves up for 4 days
and purchase tickets,
and purchase tickets. Yeah.
So everything right now, I guess, is on the collective front is we're just kind of in a holding pattern. I mean, obviously we all want to go forward and we want to do something, and we just don't know. I keep getting a lot of questions about that. Is it going to be in Tampa? Is it going to be somewhere else? Is it going to be this weekend? Is it going to be that weekend? We have no idea what to do, because this information hit us in a shock, because we were all anticipating, like, the MLB season is postponed, or suspended, or the NBA season is suspended or postponed. We were all anticipating WrestleMania will also be suspended or postponed. And then once they announce the new date, then the collective, like we had a hold on the building, so it's like we could try to move that deposit, elsewhere for other dates, which would coincide with the new WrestleMania dates. When they said they're going forward with it with no fans, which nobody in the fucking world would have ever guessed that they would give up all that money just to go forward. We don't know what to do at this point. And, I have no answer on that, honestly. Like, there is a plan to do something at some day eventually, but we just don't know because you can't make a plan for anything right now. Like we have a show on April 24th that we don't even know if it's going to be allowed to go or not.
Right.
We have a show in May in Akron that we don't know if it's going to be able to go or not. So like, you can't also then book the makeup dates now because who knows, like this thing could be over next week. This thing could be over on Labor Day weekend. You don't know. We don't know how long the country is going to kind of be in this sense of, disarray and with no idea on what's going to happen.
Where does this put AIW from a financial standpoint? Because you see a lot of talk about people concerned, and there was the article, was that on Vice? Is that what Bix wrote for? About how Mania, running from the Performance Center is going to impact independence. Where does this put AIW? Because we've had flights that were paid for.
It sucks. I mean, it sucks. I'm not going to lie. I was going to war with Priceline all week and weekend, and I finally got to speak to somebody. And, listen, as much as these places are saying, like, no big deal on the, on the travel changes and this and that, it's kind of a fucking lie because, are they going to give credits? Yes, but there's loopholes to those credits. Like, for example, I had a flight for Pedro booked for Tampa for WrestleMania weekend. I booked it through Priceline. He's on 2 different airlines, right? So then, all Priceline, a lot of what Priceline is telling you is like, well, you have to consult to this airline because we don't have, it's at their discretion. So I've waited 5 days for them to tell me I have to now call this airline myself. But, one of the things that they were like, oh yeah, we have American Airlines, we have a directive or whatever set forth. And so now Pedro has a credit in his name. However, he can only use it to fly from Tampa, Florida to Akron, Ohio. You cannot change the route. So it's like, why, if WrestleMania don't happen and the collective does not happen in Tampa, he has no reason to be flying from Tampa back to Akron, Ohio. So, is there a credit in his name? Yes. Can it be used? Probably not. So, we did not recoup any of that money, and that's just an example. Similar things for Gauntlet, there was absolutely no refunds given by any of the airlines. There's credits given, but you have to use those for that specific person, and a lot of the times in those specific routes. So, the big thing that I didn't even now has changed. When I talked to Priceline, Eric Stevens was still retired. So I was like, well, fuck that one. There's nothing I can do with that one. Well, so now I'm going to have to call back and see if I can at least get him credits, because he is going to do some stuff again, I guess. But,
which actually, what would have been nice is because he's not far from Tampa. If you could have taken that Pedro flight and transferred to a different name, but that's a non-transferable thing.
Right. I mean, after 9/11, pretty much everything's non-transferable, and there's some cases where they'll let you transfer it, but it's, like $100, $200 change fee. It's crazy. So, it's just, from a financial standpoint, it's been a complete nightmare. I was just thinking about this today because, last year was pretty successful. Like from a just reach standpoint, the fight pay-per-views last year for WrestleMania weekend were just like astronomically way better than anyone ever anticipated. Which resulted in a good chunk of change for us. We spent a lot of money last year, but we got most of it back, maybe profitable. I never really broke down the numbers that good to be like, was this profitable? It wasn't a gigantic loss though, like I know that much. So, in the last 2 months, I've made all these kind of upgraded purchases, so to speak, because, I was anticipating the same thing. As people saw on Twitter, I bought new championship belts, like because I thought like we're gonna have this influx of money coming in, So
Yeah.
we have a new absolute title, a new intense title. I also, spent a couple $1,000s to get new ring posts for the low ring, so we could start, adding some potential bar shows again throughout the summer. There's a place in Canton that wanted us, and there's other places in the Winchester and all these other things that we need that low ring available. So I'm like, well, we're gonna have this influx of money coming in, so let's let me just buy it now. And
we bought a new canvas for Tampa,
and we bought the most expensive canvas. We bought a black canvas, which is which we were getting those blue ones because they were cheaper. But like we're like, fuck it, like we're gonna kill it again. Like let's get the $700 canvas. Let's get that one, and it's just all of that comes out, right? And then like I'm looking at the balance, and then it's like, well, Gauntlet's off. I have to offer refunds,
Right.
So there goes thousands of dollars. Oh, Thunder in Paradise is off. I have to offer refunds, even more thousands of dollars, because those tickets are more expensive. So it's like that was just like tons and tons of money going out, and I haven't even completed them all because like I honestly, and like I apologize to people that are waiting on that money. It was just like I needed a break from just seeing like everything crumble around me, to be perfectly honest. It's like I think I sent you a screenshot, and I was like, hey, take a look at the PayPal, and it was like minus 200, minus 3, like it was like the whole screen was like minus hundreds of dollars each transaction, and I was like, that's just what fits on the screen. I was like, I could probably do that 2-3 more times with all the money that is being refunded. And look, I get it. That's my obligation. The event did not happen. It's an act of God or whatever you want to call it. And I'm not insinuating that I don't want to give the refunds whatsoever. I'm just saying from a business standpoint, like seeing all that money go out, it's just like, fuck. And then like, I think about all those like just upgrade purchases because you think that you're going to have all this money coming in. And
I mean that's how you budget a business in general. You estimate money coming in, and then you plan accordingly. Okay, this is coming in, and even if you underestimated how much money was coming in, just to be on the safe side, it's still a lot.
Right. And I was like, fuck it, man, we'll be fine. Like we're gonna do okay. The Thunder in Paradise card was very cost effective, or however you want to describe it. It was an AIW show just like last year. We just didn't have the big ticket guys, so to speak, like the Scott Steiner and the Otanis on there, but the show was still very good. It was just like it was a lot more cost friendly for us. So I was really anticipating that where we were, I guess last year, to where we were kind of like, it wasn't like a gigantic win, but it was still a win. Like I was really trying to kind of maximize our profitability this year. So because, a lot of these guys last year weren't the guys, but like this year, a lot of them are big time players in independent wrestling right now. So it was kind of like, let's focus more on our guys than even last year, and we can really make this a win and kind of set ourselves up and to kind of spend more money on the J-Lit weekend and buy these upgrades and do all this stuff. And it was really what I thought was the most kind of thought out, far distance plan, like long-term planning that we've done in quite some time. And it all fell apart. And the other thing is we sat down a year ago and hammered out all these dates. When we booked all of our kind of core guys that we wanted to build around for all these dates. And now, we're looking at, one cancellation, 2 postponements, maybe 3 or 4 postponements. How do you, when all these companies are postponed, then how do you find that makeup date in which you can get all those guys that all the plans were made for? You know what I mean? Say, for example, okay, we're going to do the Gauntlet makeup date on this date. And then, the Odeon isn't available. It's only available on this date. And then you go to that date, and that's, that's an AAW date, and it's they've booked some of the same people we booked already. So it's now you got to find another date, to try to get those people. And the whole thing is just I know I'm rambling, but the whole thing is just a fucking mess, to think about.
So let's talk about that real quick. As of right now, April 24th isn't canceled. I mean, as we sit here today, it looks like there's a good probability of that.
Right.
And then May 16th would be the next date, which is in Akron. But in an ideal scenario, we still get to have those shows.
In an ideal scenario, if April 24th is a go, you just kind of flip the order a little bit and you do the rap show, and then maybe May 16th turns in the Gauntlet. That's the short-term plan right now, but we don't know. You know what I mean? We have no idea. And it sounds bad, but for my fucking mental health, I am not even trying to formulate a what-if plan right now because, I just look at all these companies, for example, that tried to do these what-if empty arena shows that have all got smoked. Freelance was all right, we're going to do this every week or whatever. And before they even did one, they got shut down, and it's just I don't even want to think about any of the makeup stuff, any of it, because do we expect that we couldn't even really leave our houses, last week? It's
right.
It's constantly changing. So I just can't, you just can't do the what ifs right now because, this thing could be over in 2 weeks. This thing could be over in 2 months. This thing could be over, in a year. We have no idea. There's my cough again.
So you are one of the, I guess, smarter of the independent promoters in a sense that you've always kind of held a, I guess, rainy day fund, for lack of better terms. And that has us okay because of those flights. The way you would describe it would be if we had back-to-back shows that just flopped and nobody came, hey, we'd still be okay. We'd be able to pay the talent. But I imagine that a lot of that is probably gone by the wayside based upon your description of, having made purchases because you thought that the money was going to be coming in. Would that sound correct?
So yeah, I mean, I have the benefit of maybe some other promoters don't, to where I have a decent enough job to where I can pay all my bills with my job. So I don't rely on AIW for anything, it just all kind of sits in an account other than, sometimes it's like, okay, I'll buy all the guys dinner, or like we'll do some work and I'll cover food, on AIW, or at the after party, or things like that. But for the most part, it does sit in an account, and we are set up. Like the built to last thing isn't just like a statement. Like, we are built to last. There is money in the bank right now, and without doing shows, like, we can cover. But I guess the business terminology for it is burn rate. I don't know what our burn rate is right now to where we can burn through this money and then be okay, because we still do have bills, we still do have bills, even though the wrestling school is shut down, we still got to pay for that space. The ring is sitting there right now. So, we still got to pay that monthly bill. We have a gigantic storage unit that is a few $100s a month. We still got to pay that bill. We don't want all that fucking shit going up for auction. We got to pay the bill. And there's other things that we have to pay monthly.
There's a credit card that we have that's got to get paid off, and just to give people ideas.
In which that I have not paid, because I know that that's going to be a significant chunk, and I was hoping to get some refunds on there before I even broach that subject. And when I didn't get the refunds, that's what I'm going to try to do this week, is like, I'm going to suck it up and be like, okay, like, if I pay this off, what's this going to take our balance down to? And, we have money, but it's going to go quick is, I guess, the point I'm trying to get across, because we do have these monthly expenses, and, you can't stop them, like it's not stopping them with no income coming in. Sooner, we have some income, like whatever you're buying off Smart Mark Video, or if you're watching on IWTV, AIW shows, like, we are going to get some income from that. It's not going to be like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. It's going to, it'll be a couple $100 probably, depending on how much stuff is bought, but it's going to kind of be like, like if I boil down the monthly expenses versus the money coming in, it's going to be, it's really gonna be tight. And I haven't even finished doing the refunds. like refund requests are coming in every day for Tampa, for Gauntlet. I've stated, and for Thunder in Paradise, if you keep that ticket, it will still be active whenever the show happens. But as we covered on this podcast, some people are out of work and they really need whatever money they can get right now. So a lot of people, and I understand that. That's no disrespect to anybody, like, it's your money and you need it. And, that's just kind of, like I said, that's the cost of doing business, or whatever you want to call it. It sucks to be like, when you look at that, which our PayPal account was just always so, so I guess healthy, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And then, when you look at thousands and thousands of dollars having to go out for refunds, and then you're looking at your monthly bills that are about to come out, you're like, fuck, like, how long can we do this to where it's going to be down? It's going to be down to zero pretty quick. And then once it hits zero, then you're accumulating debt. And, how do you dig yourself out of that debt when you don't know when you're going to be able to do another show, or like, if you say, when we can do a show, are people going to be comfortable gathering in a large group again? There's a lot of factors that are just like, not to sound grim, but like, who knows how many independent promotions, AIW included, can even bounce back from this situation.
Well, and I think the last thing that you mentioned is an important part as well. Even if the money that you have set aside for something, well, I guess like this, not that you would have predicted it to be this situation, but even if you still have some of that money left, we run our first show, and you're right, maybe people are scared to go around, and heck, maybe we only sell 75 tickets because people don't want to be in that kind of an environment right away, that money's we're going to burn through that money right there.
Right, because like, I hate to tell you guys this, but like, as much as there's the stigmas of like independent wrestling is like, guys work for $10 or
and a hot dog,
a hot dog or whatever. That ain't the case. Especially with fucking Pedro running the payment, plans. He takes care of everybody because, he was the guy there that was doing ring crew for nothing for a year. So he makes sure he takes care of everybody. If you're a student on the show, you're getting paid. Unless you're somebody that really, really annoys me, and I specifically say don't pay that person. But for the most part, Pedro's paying everybody. Everybody's getting something. So that money, the 75 tickets is like you're barely covering anything. You know what I mean? So it's like even those shows that are drawing 400, those are like sometimes are break even budget wise, and then you make it up with the fight streams or the IWTV stuff that comes in because you get paid a little bit differently when you watch live versus when you watch on demand. So it's crazy. Oh, another thing, I bought so much merch from Eric Ryan to get ready for Tampa, and I'm dreading when it's ready and I have to pay that bill because we loaded up on stuff, and so, you could probably expect some, as soon as I get it, some mail order, Twitter fucking merch sales going on because we have no money. Like we have some money, but nothing significant. Like when you sell 400 tickets, money coming in for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. So I think this is kind of a good wrapping up point, but for people who do want to help us, again, you said buy stuff on SmartMark. The IWTV, it's not just about signing up, but logging AIW hours, right?
Yeah. So it's like not to expose too much of the business practices or whatever or the deals, but like we get paid like per hour viewed. So like the more hours of AIW you watch, or the more hours of whatever your favorite indie company on there is, like the payment is like based on like your hours viewed. So if you could sit there and when you're quarantined and just marathon some AIW stuff, that would probably help us. And they also have a shop where they sell AIW t-shirts on IWTV. That helps us. Our Pro Wrestling Tees store, that would help us. Like you said, SmartMark Video, DVDs, MP4s, that helps us. And our Patreon, in which, I've been adding all sorts of stuff to our Patreon because, what else do I have to do? I have all this stuff sitting around, we've gathered all this stuff over time and, I have not released it all on Patreon yet. We've made content that I stagger release, and now I'm going through stuff and I'm putting stuff on there. I found like the first AIW flyer that I just put on Patreon, and I uploaded the awful music video to open the first AIW show. I put that on Patreon, and we have special podcasts and matches. I'm trying to get active on our YouTube again and upload more stuff. It's just like it's like a fire sale right now. It's just like everything that we can get out there to try to make any sort of income. I'm trying to do, especially I'm at least off of work for the next week. So I'm going to get like pretty heavy on just trying to figure out what everything I have like possibly that has not been released, and, just try to get that stuff out there because we could be looking at months and months of this. And, we don't want people to forget about AIW because it's going to be.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. When you talk
it's going to be very
YouTube,
easy.
Yeah. We've grabbed a lot of new fans, and you've got to find a way. That's going to be kind of our challenge now, is to find a way to stay active in those fans' lives until we can have a show again.
Right. And, that's going to be the difficult part because, everyone's kind of facing the same problems, like just because and I do appreciate that because, AIW is my world and I'm facing all of these problems. And I assume that a lot of people are facing all sorts of problems with their jobs and their families and being cooped up with, their wives or girlfriends or husbands or whatever, there's all sorts of just stuff that everyone is dealing with. And it's easy for people to kind of forget about AIW because there are all these problems going on in the world. So I am going to try to be more active in at least trying to keep people's attention for at least a few minutes a week because, when we come back, I do want to come back strong. But as I stated, there are a lot of hurdles, that we are facing even when we are allowed to promote events again. So it is just, it's crazy, man. Honestly, it's just crazy to think about just you try to analyze everything and there's just no answer and there's no idea on when we can get back to normal. And it sucks and it's stressful, but I will say once once all the chips fell and we had to cancel the shows, I did feel this sense of relief because it was just it's over, you know what I mean? And not an AIW's over. It's just the stress of trying to make it to the finish line is over. It's not happening. It's been done for us. There's nothing because until that final, straw was pulled or whatever, we were trying to figure everything out and really racking our brains and stressing ourselves out, trying to figure out a way, to make these shows happen. And, I was somewhat relieved when it was just it's over, there's nothing more that I could do because I put more pressure on myself than anybody could possibly put on me. And, from fan feedback to whatever, nobody puts more pressure and strives for more success than I do on myself. And once that, it is a weird feeling because there's been no point in my life to which I had no shows to look forward to, no shows to be working on. Since I was, 15, 16 years old, I always had something going on with wrestling. And it's just this weird relief to where it's maybe once it all comes back, I'll be able to just kind of really enjoy it a little bit more than what I've been doing because it is it's an intense pressure, and I have not had that pressure outside of my body for, I don't know, ever probably. So it's just a strange feeling. And I don't even know if what I just said makes any sense, but it is a strange feeling to just really have nothing to kind of focus on to where I can go and I can do when it was me and Chandler and it was Chandler did his things and I did my things. It's I grew the YouTube, you know what I mean? And I did all these other kind of side gigs on top of the other stuff. And it's now, I can focus on some of these side things again that kind of helped grow AIW in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
it was just a fucking ramble. I mean, I don't know. There's so much going on in my head. I don't know.
In terms of the podcast, folks, I guess if there's a silver lining, there are plenty of shows that we have yet to review and talk about on the podcast, so you can look forward to that in the coming weeks.
And we actually recorded one pre COVID-19 outbreak that I just didn't release yet because I wanted to have at least a buffer to explain if Josh Bishop is on there talking about Tampa,
right, yeah,
because it was recorded 3 weeks ago before any of this stuff happened, which is part of me wants to release it, part of me wants to just re-record it, because who knows what we even talked about. It's so much has happened in the last couple of weeks. I can't even remember what that podcast was even what it was about and what we talked about, but I know it's not going to age well based on the last 2 weeks.
I think the people are going to want to hear it though. They're gonna. I think it's who knows. I think we talked about AIW 200 is a show that we reviewed.
No, it was Bad Boy for Life.
Oh, it was Bad Boy for Life. It was
because Joey Janela was going to make his return to AIW last week. Which who knows if that'll happen now? You know, like there's so much just in flux, and it's like, how do you even make a plan?
Well, that's what we're going to try to do, folks. As soon as we're able to make a plan, we'll try to make a plan for you. But I think it's probably a good endpoint. Unless you want to ramble some more, John, it's up to you.
No, I mean I'm gonna have so much. I'm gonna have so much more to ramble. We might as well just save it for another day.
All right,
I'm cooped up in this fucking little office here in my house. So
hopefully you guys are staying as healthy as you can, practicing social distancing, and wash your fucking hands.
Just like this podcast, social distancing.
Yeah, we're trying to lead by example here, so that you guys do it too. Until next week. For John Thorne, my name's Steve Guy. We'll talk to you right here on The Card is Going to Change.